I think when it comes to entertainment, 2024 is going to be known as the year of the wholesale rejection of the woke ideology within entertainment. And you don't have to look any further than what we're already seeing currently going on in the video game industry. There have been several major video game flops this year, mainly because of DEI and identity politics that have been forced into these video games. A really good example of this is Firewalk Studios closing down after the massive failure that is Concord. And likewise, Dragon Age Veilguard has been a massive failure for BioWare, which is kind of funny because this is leading into the article we're going to be talking about. Now, if you're a video game company and you're steeped in ideology and you keep having failure after failure because people keep rejecting your woke ideology, what are you supposed to do? Cave and give the customer what they want, which is just fun entertainment that is identity politics free? Or do you find some way of going and tricking the customer and backdooring your agenda? Well, that is precisely what BioWare is going to attempt to do. Now, take this with a grain of salt. This is merely a rumor, but I'll be honest with you, I would not be surprised if this is actually the case, and it's not just BioWare who is going and doing this. Coming from that Park Place rumor, BioWare may stealthily introduce politically charged content into Mass Effect 5 post-launch. And like I said, this is a rumor, so please take this with a grain of salt, but in reality, I would not be surprised if this is what these companies are trying to do going forward. Now, this leak is coming from an alleged contractor that works for BioWare, and they're working on the upcoming Mass Effect 5 game. And apparently, EA and BioWare is pivoting because of the massive failure that is Dragon Age Veilguard. Now, this post has been making the rounds over on Twitter. As you can see, this was posted out by Archcast, and this individual posted to the subreddit Kotaku in action. We got an all-hands-on-deck meeting last week. Devs were asked to delay features, art, and content that may be deemed woke or political, and defer them to future patches. As QAS, we were tasked to report if we audit or detect anything that might resemble them so they can be fixed. The company wants to launch the game as clean as possible and introduce woke stuff silently through patches. I fear this might be industry-wide. They wouldn't be issuing this so early otherwise. So tread carefully, that's all. Now, if this is true, this could potentially wreck the gaming industry more so than it already has been because of the identity politics and wokeness being put into games. Because if you just market something as just being a fun, entertaining game and then slowly begin introducing wokeness in later, using patching, you're going to severely damage the relationship between the customer and your corporation. This is massively stupid. Because ultimately, what you're going to do is cause the customer to not buy your product because they are unsure if down the road you're going to go and make it woke. Because this is something that gamers do not want in their video games. And to me, this screams false advertising. Because if basically your marketing a game is not being woke, and by not being woke, you're not having any of the woke elements in it, and then you decide to go and introduce it later. To me, this is nothing more than a bait and switch, and potentially it might open up these companies for legal action. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if this is actually the case or not. This is just my opinion. Now, another side effect could be that other gaming companies that are not doing this are also going to be impacted because customers don't trust gaming companies anymore. And this is going to hurt them by proxy. And it makes me wonder if that could potentially open up legal action against the companies that are backdooring woke content in by companies that are not doing it if they are actually being impacted as a result. And ultimately, the situation is going to turn into a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So gamers aren't going to go out of their way to buy video games if they fear that they're going to get wokeified after the fact. Now, ultimately, I do believe that the tide is indeed turning. But that doesn't mean we should become complacent. We need to make sure that we stay vigilant, and we see companies doing this. We need to make sure that we call them out and we don't buy their products as a result, because the only way they are ever going to learn is if we hit them in the pocketbook. Because all this ESG money that these corporations have been getting, are loans, which means that they have to go and pay that money back at some point. And if they are not raking in the money like they were before, it puts them in a very precarious situation. So we as customers need to go and make sure that we keep the pressure on these companies. And if they go and wokeify their product, we simply don't buy it. And if they go and backdoor it after the fact, well, we don't buy it at all. And that should send a very loud message to these companies. We don't want your ideology. We don't want your wokeness. And if you do, well, we're simply going to put you out of business by not going and buying your product anymore. Anyway, folks, these are my thoughts. What are yours? Do you think that this is something that companies are going to start doing because they know that they're losing the culture war? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to go and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, make sure you go and subscribe. And popping up right about now should be another video of mine. Please go and check that out, and I'll catch you next time, folks.